Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, today, the 29th night of the month of Ramadan, one of the blessed nights of the month of Ramadan. We hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of us our ibadat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this month of Ramadan as one of the means of having our sins forgiven. Tonight, inshallah, we'll talk about a few verses from Surah Taraweeh. And this surah, even though it was one of the Makki surahs, one of the early Makki surahs, not at the time at which the kuffar of the Makkah were being very tough on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim. The subject of the surah that I would like to emphasize on is the first few verses of Surah Taraweeh, and it has a great relevance in today's time, where we hear all the time regarding the Islam being which is the one which is a source of, if you want to, source of oppressing women. And obviously it is contrary to what the reality of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal is. And when we look at the surah, we really realize that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised the level of the women, and especially to keep in mind the time we're talking about. So let's get into the surah, and inshallah we'll see the relevance from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the relevance of the surah to today's time as well. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the surah, "Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, idha shamsu kuwirat," when the sun is wound round and its light is lost and is overthrown. "Wa idha an-nujumu inqadarat," and when the stars fall. "Wa idha al-jibalu suyirat," and when the mountains are made to pass away. In these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, when Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about what the situation will be, and such a great phenomena as Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about in the beginning of the surah, Allah is saying when the sun, which is the source of heat for us, source of light for us, source of energy for many of the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about when this sun, which is so important for the existence of many living things of Allah Azza wa Jal, that sun will be wounded up. That sun will lose its whatever the kind of energy Allah Azza wa Jal bestowed on the sun, will lose it that day. And we know that it is a celestial body, the huge body that we see on a daily basis. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about drawing the picture of the day of judgment. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the stars, when the stars will fall, and the sun is one of the stars as we know of. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about other stars as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Jibal. When the Jibal means the mountains will be flying, like they will be made pass away. As we know that the mountains are one of the biggest things that we see on the earth. Which have a lot of weight. Just if we go and stand by the mountain, just looking at the mountain really makes you humble, that how small we are compared to the size of the mountains. And those mountains which are so huge, Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about, that those mountains will be like as passing away. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, another place, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will be like the wool. So that's the situation of the mountains will be that day. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when the pregnant she camels are neglected. To understand this idea of when it is talking about a pregnant she camel will be neglected, this is one of the most expensive kind of a commodity they used to have in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She camel, or the camels in general at that time, is one of the things that are needed to a point that their lives were dependent on them to live in the desert. Now, not only is a camel, but this camel is pregnant. Not only pregnant, it's a 10-month pregnant camel, which is about to deliver another camel. The value of the camel is huge, and especially the people who are living in the desert, whose life is dependent on that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that kind of a she camel who's pregnant 10 months will be neglected, meaning people will not care about it because the day will be so severe, the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that people would not care about that. As another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talks about a similar kind of a statement when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that on the day of judgment, people will be naked. And Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, wouldn't people be looking at each other? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the day will be so severe, people would not care about who's naked and who's not. And then, if you think of this way, she camel will be, which is 10 months pregnant, will be neglected. Today's time, if you want to think about it, you can think about the most expensive cars that you can think of, that people care about if there's a small scratch on it or something happens to their cars, which are in some cases they are millions of dollars. The value of the cars are millions of dollars. So you cannot think of somebody who has a car that is that expensive, would not care what's going on with the car. Similarly, people would not care about the camel, she camel is pregnant. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues on and says, وَإِذَا الْوُحُوشُ حُشِّرَتْ, and when the wild beasts are gathered together. This is interesting phenomenon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. Wild beasts are gathered together means that all different kinds of beasts will be together, and instead of thinking about that they are going to attack each other, or the one who is living off of the other animal will try to get his food out of the other animal or the cattle, those beasts, and whether it's the goat or the lamb or the lions or the tiger or the cheetah, whatever these beasts are, they will be gathered together. And it is like as if you think of it, if a huge phenomena is happening, like in a couple of days, a day or two, there will be one of the eclipses. When these kind of phenomena happen, people gather and they look up and see what's going on. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about these animals will gather and they will be looking what's going on. This is the state that the people and the animals will be in. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِذَا الْبِحَارُ سُجِّرَتْ, and when the seas will be becoming blazing fire or overflow. That's an interesting thing to think about. You're talking about water. Sea is a lot of water is gathered in one place. The water normally has the attribute or the characteristic of extinguishing the fire, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that the sea will become a blazing fire, the one that will be on fire. And now, after people have done some of the so-called scientific researches, and they can tell that water is made up of H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. Both of them, one is the one that helps the fire, and the other is can be source of the fire. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can combine those two atoms together and come up with something that actually a cause of extinguishing the fire. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He can make the sea into a place where there will be blazing fire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing the picture of how severe the day will be. Even the sea, there is a huge amount of water is gathered in one place, there will become a blazing fire. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and when the souls are joined with their bodies, as Mufassirin discusses in two different meanings out of it. One is when the bodies will be combined with the souls, and others say that the good souls will be gathered with the good souls, and the bad souls will be gathered with the bad souls. So whoever we were worshipping, whoever we were thinking of, they are the ones we would like to be like. Whether nowadays people talk about celebrities and they try to be like them. So on the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will gather the people who are like-minded. Whatever they were doing in this dunya of the same category of amal or the actions they did in this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather them together. So if the people who love, or the one who are running around, walking around, the tyrants today, they think that they can provide them something in this dunya, and they love them, on the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will gather them with them, because you love them in this dunya, in the akhirah, your ending will be with them. So the people who are gathering around The tyrants today, whether in the time of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, the people gathered around Fir'aun, or in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, people gathered around Abu Jahl, Umayyah bin Khalaf, or Nadar bin Harith, or Utbah bin Mu'id, and so on and so forth. Or even today, the people who are source of oppression for many people, whether they're Muslims or non-Muslim alike. If the people are they are helping these tyrants, or they are the one who are supporting them in any way, they have to think about it. On the day of judgment, Allah Azza wa Jal will be gathering the like souls together. So who do we want to be gathered on the day of judgment? And our action should be representing those actions. So if we want to be we make this dua all the time, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala get us with the Anbiya, Shuhada, Siddiqeen, and Salihin. Then we better be doing the actions of the one that we are expected from, whether the action that Anbiya have shown to us, Salihin or Siddiqeen or Shuhada have done that. If we want to be with them, we have to act like them. We have to have the actions of those people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that when those like-minded souls will be gathered together, the good souls will be with the good people, good souls, and the bad souls will be with the bad souls. And now talking about such huge phenomena, whether talking about destruction of the sun or the stars or the seas or the mountains, and talking about the most expensive things that you can think of, and then talking about judgment when people will be gathered with the good and the bad will be gathered with the bad, or people will be brought back to life. And suddenly talk about another issue that was prevalent in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is what the ma'udatu swilat, that day the female infant will be asked that why for which sin that female infant was killed. That was one of the phenomena that used to happen in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the Jahiliyyah, before Rasulullah was appointed as a prophet. And this was in the Arabian Peninsula. They used to become sad when they used to get the news that they have a daughter was born in the family. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in other places, that their faces turned dark because of the news that the daughter has been born. And in some cases, they buried their daughters alive. As some of the Mufassirin discusses this subject this way, that some of them, they used to give birth to the baby very close to a hole is already dug up. If it's a girl, they would just bury the daughter alive. And some of them, they let them live for a few days, months, or years, and then they buried them alive. Because for them, that became as a source of humiliation or degradation, that they gave birth to a daughter. Now look, Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about that female child infant that was buried alive with such huge phenomena, that the destruction of the sun, stars, mountains, or seas, and all those things. That shows that how important of a deed is that, or in a sense of importance, in the sense of how big of a sin is that, the one who was committing that. That raises the level of the women in Islam. It's not only that, talking about something which is, it cannot even speak for herself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking on the behalf of that infant girl. And now, this very same idea of oppressing the women continued on even today. Look at what's happening in the world, especially countries like India and China. On a yearly basis, one of the numbers they talk about is in India. Can I get some water? In India, there are over 15 million abortions happen every year. And in China, over 13 million girls are abortions are done. Now, obviously, those 15 million and 13 million that we're talking about, they can have boys also, baby boys. But when we look at the detail behind it, what we see is the reality in India is that there are many people who are having abortions is because of the socio-economic situation in India. The way it works is they feel when there's a baby girl is born as if there's a burden on their neck now, or now they have to pay the money for her to get married and all those things. So now, because of the advent of the scientific knowledge of ultrasounds, now they have ultrasound offices which are open many places in India, and once they find out it's a baby girl, they abort the baby. And similar thing was happening in China for a long period of time. Now they have changed some rules, which was when they have a one-child policy. Because of one-child policy, for them, a baby boy can be source of a strength from the family. And they thought of it as a girl is weaker, hence they started doing the abortions as well. So over 28 million babies get aborted just in these two countries, India and China. Of course, these are the countries that have the biggest population as well. But when you compare these 28 million numbers, this 28 million, more than 50% of the countries of the world do not even have the population of 28 million. They don't even have the population. And that many infants or the abortions are done every year in just in these two countries. Now, Islam actually is not promoting things like that. Today we hear about women rights or feminist movements or Women Day and all those things are happening. Yes, it is true that women rights should be given to the women. But who's the one who's going to define these rights? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the man defines the rights for the women, it can define the rules that he thinks or she thinks or the majority of the people think that's the right should be. And if we go back to the history of why these movements were started, we find that, as a matter of fact, these movements are, instead of giving the rights to the women, they are actually abusing the women further. Because what they're doing is, they did not know what rights should be given to the women. So they came up with, okay, the women should have the same rights as the men, which is kind of a strange idea to think of it. So you have made men as the benchmark for the women to be like. So if women become like men, so then people think of it, okay, now the rights have been given. It's not the issue of the women become like men, then her rights are given. Rather, it should be thought of it as women and men both are the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they both should get the rights which are defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the creator of the men and women and all the creations, and Allah is the one who really know that what is right and what is wrong, what responsibility should be on the men, what responsibilities should be on the women. And this is the only way we can really provide justice to men and women alike. So yes, should we be looking for the rights for the men and the women? Yes, we should be. But we have to know who's the one who's going to define these rights. And has to be defined by the creator of the heavens and the earth, who is unbiased, who is not male or female. He's not the one who is favoring male or the female. He's not the one who has any kind of a dependency. He is independent. He is not in need of any of them. Hence, when he gives the rules and regulation or the laws, they are unbiased and they are just. And that's the only way, only true way to really provide justice to men and women alike. Otherwise, we can see that what it has produced in the world today, whether we talk about the abortion, whether we talk about the other things, even the most progress country in the world today, or most developed countries like United States, we find that there are about 1 in 5 girls who go to college, they have been one time or other, they have some sort of either the rape or sexual harassment have been done to the girls. This is the kind of environment that have been created by the man-made laws. The only way that we can really bring justice for the men and women alike is through the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we can see that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is raising the issue of not only the women rights, rather starting from the women who's not even reached the age where she can even speak on her behalf. Allah Azza wa Jal is speaking on her behalf. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا الْمَؤُودَةُ سُئِلَتْ بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ, when that female infant that was buried alive on the day of judgment, she will be asked, why was she killed? This is a rhetoric sentence in a manner. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not know that why she was killed. It's known why she was killed. but this is to show the importance of a female infant child even. How big of a thing this is in the sight of Allah, that Allah has compared just one female child that's buried alive to the destruction of the sun, destruction of the stars, destruction of the mountains or the seas, and so on and so forth. So that's the key thing to remember. Islam came and gave the rights to the women that was due to them. Islam came and made the mother as the status of under whose feet is the Jannah. Islam came and made daughters are the source of the father, or the girls are the source for the father, or the sons, or the brothers to enter into Jannah. And similarly, if there is a sister of a brother, she can be a source for Jannah if he treats her well. And the hadith of Rasulullah talks about the best thing a man can get in this dunya is a pure wife. So Islam raises the status of the woman. When she's a mother, the Jannah is under her feet. As the hadith of Rasulullah talks about, when a Sahabi came to Rasulullah and asked, who has the most right over you? Rasulullah said, your mother. And then he asked, then who? Rasulullah said, again the mother. 3 times he repeated the mother. And 4th time he said the father. That shows the importance of the motherhood, the importance of the sisterhood, the importance of being a daughter, and so on and so forth. So Islam came and protected and defended the women the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the heavens, wanted. And not only the women, rather the mankind at large, whether you are men or women, Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who provided the justice to all sorts of both the genders. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the correct understanding of the Quran in relevance to the time and age that we are living in, so we can implement the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and show to the mankind the mercy that the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides to the mankind, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. وقولوا قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. جزاكم الله خيرا. السلام عليكم.